Why did you want to write a book?
I mean, I find writing really, really therapeutic anyway, and it's in a way, it's my way of processing the grief and really what's happened, because when you read back, you just think, does that really happen? Does that happen to me? I started writing the blog in 2008. Daisy was born very, very prematurely and not long afterwards diagnosed with this very rare genetic condition called Costello syndrome.
So you knew at that point it was life-limiting?
Yes, we were told it was life-limiting. She also had a very extreme form of it, and the doctors really didn't know at that point if she would even live a year. And then she lived 2 years and 3 years, and then she got worse and worse. She developed intestinal failure. And it was at the point where she went into Great Ormond Street in 2008, and her whole intestinal system had failed, and she was basically being fed intravenously. I started just writing about it as a way, because it was just quite unbelievable, and as a way of communicating to people what was happening.
And you and your husband, Andy, obviously you knew her condition was life-limiting, and you say that you always thought that you would face her death together. You knew she was going to go.
Yeah.
You didn't know exactly when, but you thought, well, we'll have each other, we'll be strong. And then Andy got terminal cancer.
So basically, we kind of went through this process with Daisy where we knew she was going to die, so we were determined to live every moment. In the very early days, we were terrified of the fact she was going to die, and we worried about that all the time. And there became a point in time we thought, well, we're just missing Daisy and the children growing up. They were 7, 5 and 2 when Daisy was born. And then we just decided to enjoy the ride, even if it was a bit of a roller coaster. And then Andy, just out of the blue, absolutely out of the blue. I was doing an ultra marathon, and I was at the finish line, and Andy wasn't there with the kids, and he was late, and he looked really tired, and I thought, well, maybe I'm just asking too much. Maybe this is just all taking too much of a toll. And within a few weeks, he'd lost about 2 stone in weight. He had a colonoscopy, and they found he had stage 4 colorectal cancer.
We're so sorry, and sadly he passed away before Daisy.
Yeah. So that was the thing, that we had each other. We had a really strong marriage. We'd been through a lot already as a couple. We'd weathered a lot of storms, but we thought at least, you know, we are there together, and when Daisy goes, we will be able to face this together.
Was writing something that really helped you get through each day? I mean, what was the process? Did you set aside a little bit of time? Because it must have been, you had such a full day anyway.
Yeah.
So how did you sort it out?
I find it really relaxing, and it's almost like a bit of a you know, brain dump.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to make my writing a chore, so it would be, you know, things would happen, and I'd think, I just need to write this down.
Yeah.
And it'd be 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'd just, you know, offload, and I wouldn't even plan the blog post, they would just come out.
Did you write it for people in your position? Because there'll be a lot of people watching today who think, that's my story too. Is that what happened?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I'm in a fortunate position that I can write, and I guess I'm reasonably articulate, but on the journey you meet so many people. Our whole life became, you know, our friends, our wide circle of friends were friends, children with special needs. And
because your eldest, your other sons, one's got Asperger's.
Yeah, they've both got high-functioning autism. Yeah. So 3 out of 4 of my children had some form of additional need. And so my whole circle of friends, my whole life was EHCP plans and statements and things. But so I wanted to kind of shine a bit of a light on this world, because it can be a really, really lonely world, and you can feel very hidden away. And yet we're still the same people we were before we had our children.
Do you actually get help yourself? Because you've obviously been on this journey, and sitting there, we're all like, oh my God, this woman's been through all of this. And although you say you do your running, you do this to keep your mind going, but at the end of the day, has anyone ever said to you, are you okay yourself, what you've gone through? Is there anyone who's done that for you? You know, your kids, even I can appreciate, because your daughter went to Harvey's school, even having 2 children with autism, I know how hard it is with one. But when you're at home, does anyone actually praise you? Because you've really gone through it yourself.
That's what I miss the most with Andy not here anymore, because at least, you know, I had him texting me, you know,
he was going for it with you almost.
So who helps you in this? Who helps you? Is it talking to other parents?
It's talking to other parents, and I have an incredible circle of friends who've just been there for me through thick and thin, absolutely. And I do, I mean, you can probably tell, I'm very open about what's happened.
I can't believe how incredible you are. I mean, all of this that's happened to you, all that you've been through, these awful, awful things, you're so positive. Your outlook on life is so wonderful and bright, and you see the good in everything.
I think it's really important. I have 3 other children who still need their mum, and they still need me to be a positive role model for them. I'd be no good to them. I mean, there are days that I just want to hide under the duvet. And that's the hardest. That is the hardest thing. It's just getting up and saying, right, get up, get going. Put one foot in front of the other.
What do you think Andy would be thinking, watching
proud.
you doing all this?
So proud. He always encouraged me to write. He loved the fact that I wrote. Every now and then he'd write. When he was going through chemo, he'd write a little blog update, and then I'd proof it and everything. And he said to me, I mean, as he was dying, he said, "You must write about this stuff. You must tell our story."